I very much enjoyed this. I thought it was quite a wild story. When the opportunity to play one of these 9 perfect strangers came your way, what was it that got you most interested and excited about it?
Melissa McCarthy, she's the one that reached out and let me know about it, and she's a good friend, and she was looking out for me, and she said, this could be interesting because we've never done this before. I've never seen you play this kind of character. He's really interesting. So I read it, and I read the book, and I thought. I just thought it was a good exploration of trauma and the different ways that people try to work through that and grief. And I thought he, in particular, the character was interesting because he was like a dichotomy. He was a guy who volunteered to be there, but then spent all of his time really doing everything he could to get out of there. And I thought that was a real challenge to figure out how to make that interesting. And I thought it was pretty funny too, that somebody could be that in the depths that deep, and yet I thought there could be some comedic gold to mine there.
Is there ever a worry when a friend like that sends you a project that what do you do if you don't like it? Are you someone who is pretty honest? Like, would you say, I don't think this works for me?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be honest. And I have been in situations like that where I've had friends. Luckily, I haven't had any friendships break up over my not wanting to do it. But you do have to be honest. It's a long time to spend with a project. Like you would hope that everybody that's involved is there because they want to be there and they believe in it. So it'd be a tough thing for me to fake my way through.
Whose decision was the beard? Did you contemplate whether to have a beard or not to have a beard, or were you always going to have a beard for him?
No, that was me. I wanted to grow the beard. I wanted to wear that hat. Nobody wanted me to wear that hat. That hat was a big fight. But I just thought he was a guy who really didn't want to be recognized. It has probably happened to him before he does get recognized. It happens in the script. And I just thought, what would this guy try to do to really, really be unrecognizable? And so I thought, well, he's addicted to painkillers, so he definitely would gain weight. So I did that. And then, yeah, I grew the beard. Really just to lend a little bit more mystery to the guy, a little more kind of letting himself go. I think the guy's at the end of his rope when we meet him. And so I think he's trying his best to disappear. And I wanted him to look that way. It's why I wanted his clothes to be 20 years old.
If you're going to get screwed around with by anyone, it seems like Nicole Kidman is a good choice to do that to you. What did you most enjoy about exploring the dynamic with her character? And how was the experience of having her as a scene partner in this role?
Yeah. Well, so, the character, I like very much how the character brings an air of mystery about them. And yet the actor who plays them has to be filled with a really deep well of complexity. And Nicole's been doing this for a while, and she's played a lot of different roles. And I'm always impressed with just how much she takes on. It's hard to work that much and not repeat yourself. And she's a great example of somebody who just challenges herself so much. So I was excited to get to work with her because I thought, well, this is such a weird character. There's just so much going on here. But, the writing supports that history, and particularly the way that information is parsed out in the show and how we figure out how we learn about her experience and her trauma. I thought that the character was compelling on the page. And I just knew that she was going to bring something to it that would make those scenes charged, particularly those early scenes with Tony when we don't know a lot about either of them. But something happens in that room. I think Tony's the kind of character that he's so forceful, that character, his nature is so forceful that it's a good idea to have him in conflict with her very early on when you don't know much about them. And so it was, I looked forward to shooting those scenes, and we did shoot them pretty early when I didn't really know Nicole that much. So there's this sort of sense of trying to figure each other out in that scene that was very real.
There's also some wild stuff that happens in the show. Could you ever have imagined that you do a project where you had a scene in which Luke Evans was birthing your baby? I mean, what was that like to shoot?
Funny, I almost forgot about that scene. I don't know how, but maybe it's a mental block. Oh, we laughed so hard. We laughed so hard. And then you've got everybody in the cast at the foot of the bed, loving it. It was so weird. It was so weird, but, it's a dream sequence. So that's what's fun about a dream sequence. You can do anything. I think there's another scene, if it's still in there, where I've got like a long-haired wig. And like I'm like a romance novelist cover boy. And those are always fun because you can do anything in a dream, right? And when you consider why they're having those kinds of dreams, it's even more fascinating, I think. But that's like a reveal that comes later in the show.
What was your reaction to the ending of the series and where things are left for all of these characters, but specifically for your character?
Well, I think it's I like the ending of it, I think some things are left unsaid, some things are left pretty vague. I think that like the characters heal in some way or another. They're not completely healed, but they're not completely broken. I think at the beginning of the story, they're all pretty close to completely broken, whether they're showing it or not. But all of those characters, at one point, Luke's character says, she chose us specifically, she curated us. And I think that that's true. And I think the thing they have in common is that they are as broken as one can possibly be. And so by the end of that thing, the end of that experience, I think that they're in a better place, certainly, than they were when they got there. And I think, if there's any message to be taken away, there might be something to taking the time for yourself to shake it up a bit, shake the tree, as it were.
Was there a most challenging part of this shoot or a most challenging scene, or is it all just fun when you're doing something as kind of wild and crazy as this gets?
I think the physical thing was the more physical scenes were challenging, if only because I gained so much weight and I wasn't really taking good care of myself, and so anytime I had to run, I was a bit worried because I've got bad knees and I wasn't in shape, and I had to and I was playing this injury, and so for me, it was more physically challenging than other roles, but a big part of that was just really having to continually stay in a place of physical pain. That's something that Jonathan Levine and I talked a lot about, that this guy doesn't like get up from a chair without it really hurting. And so sort of living in that place was something that I had to stay very focused on, and that was pretty challenging.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me about it. I found all these characters so interesting. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Christina. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.